Hi everyone. Whoa. Loud and clear? Hope so. Okay. Today I want to tell you something about code review and to be more accurate about the way how to make it more efficient and overall make it better. But before we start, who am I? I'm Sebastian Malaca, and I'm a fanatic of well-written code, of the code that has really high quality, but not the best one, the good enough, because this is what our customer really want to have. I'm also writing a bit. You can find me on my personal blog, Let's Talk About Java, also on Dizon. And if you want to share with me your feedback regarding the presentation, regarding the ideas or whatever other ideas you have to talk about, just catch me on Twitter. And currently I'm working at Luxoft for UBS, so this is something that you should know. So what is in our agenda for today? First, I would like to build some basic knowledge base for us, so we'll remind what the code review really is, why we are using it. And then we think about the problems that we may face whenever we are using this activity, because usually something bad happens whenever we are doing something new for us, or we are just becoming too confident in some activity. Then I will share with you some tips that I found with the teams that I'm working with. And the last part will be about challenges that are still waiting for us, and unfortunately I don't have an easy way to solve them, only a tips that maybe will let you make them easier to tackle it. Okay, what's the value in code review? That's the question to you. Do you know why we are doing code review? Okay, so, yeah? To reduce the feedback. Okay, yeah, to find problems, bugs, issues with the code really fast. Okay, something more? Okay. To share knowledge, yeah, and this is really important because we are sharing the knowledge as the author of the code, because we are sharing the way how we solve the problem, and as a reviewer as well, because we can find the problems. Yes? Yeah, standards, rules, some common way of solving something, our patterns in our application. Okay. Yeah. And code review is also about readability. Whenever I'm putting the code to the review, as the author of the code, I'm challenging my code with another developer. I ask them to verify whether it's readable, whether you can still understand it or not. So this is about readability. When I will go from the company, or definitely from the project, someone still will be able to understand my code. Also about quality, this is something that your colleague mentioned a second ago. We want to find the pitfalls, the problems with our code as soon as possible. And about knowledge sharing. Okay. If you could imagine the perfect code review, how it would look like. Any ideas? What are the characteristics of the perfect code review? As a reviewer, as an author, you spend some time on the code, you solve the problem, you wrote the piece of code, and you put it to the review, and you ask the reviewer to look at it. As a reviewer, what are the characteristics of this code? How this should look like? Sorry? Okay, so I don't see any problems with the code. Okay? Yeah, it would be good to review only the code which we look in this way. Something more? Okay, yeah. It should be easy to understand, to read, go through the code without any concern. For me, I'm a lazy person, really lazy in case of any activity that I'm doing, whether it's personal, private or something that I'm doing at work. So for me, perfect code review should be fast. I don't want to spend hour looking at the code of the other developer. I want to write the code, yeah? I want to click in the keys on my keyboard and do something productive, not reading the code. So this should be fast. Code review should be small, because if it's too big, it's really hard to understand it. There are so many files, so many changes. Something was modified, something was added, something was removed. I have to understand everything. It's really hard to process it in my mind. And also, it should be as easy as possible. I shouldn't be exhausted after doing a code review. It should be yet another activity. And then I'm grabbing a coffee and get back to working on my code. And it shouldn't take too much time. 15 minutes, this is something that we agree in the project that I'm working with, the teams with where I'm working with. 15 minutes is the maximum time that we should spend on the review. Everything more, it's just too much. Everything more shows us there is a problem with the code sent to the review. Okay, are you doing code review? Do you have some experience with code review? Okay, some are shaking their heads as for yes, some for no. So for those who has got some experience with code review, is your code review perfect? Are you happy with each code review? No. Okay. So can you list any problem that you find? Okay. So I found few. Maybe you will agree or maybe not. Hope you will agree, because then I can help you with solution. So for me, there are a few problems with code review. When I'm looking at the code and I'm a reviewer, it's some part of my human behavior that I want to find a problem. I want to show someone that I spot the thing that he missed. This is something nice for me. I always try to find it. And that leads to plenty of comments. You are pointing everything. It doesn't matter whether it's really crucial. Is it really problematic? This is just not done in the way how I would do that. In example, brackets are not in new line but in the same line. You didn't use ternary operator but if else. Is it a problem? For me, no. This is just a really annoying comment. Someone just want to write something, point something in my code, and they did it. One of my friend sometimes, whenever he look at the code and find a design issue, he always wrote that he just don't like it, and that's a problem. Where you are writing that you don't like something, there is no feedback for me. Okay, so another comment: you can make it better. I usually assume that I'm working with professionals. So anyone who is putting the code in the review, I assume that he or she, they done the best they could to make it as good as possible. So comment like make it better is really unproductive, because first I assume that they will just, I don't know, came into my head and find this better solution. It won't happen. And probably after my comment, they won't read it, and then they will realize, yes, I really can make it better. It won't work either. Another thing, details. Details are those tiny things, like this ternary operator, like these brackets. Those are really things that doesn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter whether it will be in the same line or with different line. It doesn't matter is it a ternary operator or not. We just don't care. It won't affect readability, quality. It won't change functionality of the code. Another thing are with the conversation about the design. I don't know. I prefer strategy over the temporary method. I prefer command instead of strategy. Maybe you should use state. And you know, you are just, you think that the guy just read a book about the design patterns and they want to put each single line of code yet another design pattern. Code review is not the place for talking about design. Design should be already done. All decisions should be already made before the code is sent to the review. This is not the moment to discuss the design. Why? Because there can be plenty code written over with assumption that we are going forward with design. It should be agreed. Okay, another thing is the effort and time. With a lot of comments, with talking about design, with talking about, I mentioned also this endless discussion. This is this never-ending wars, software developers wars, like we shouldn't use singleton because it's bad. Yeah, it's obvious it's bad, so we shouldn't use it. But sometimes we just use it. Why? Because it will be really hard to change whole complex design around the code. Sometimes the effort and time from the developer's perspective would be just too big. So we are just reusing commonly used pattern. Is it bad or not? Okay, maybe it is. But sometimes we don't have the time, power to change the world, to fix whole world. But with all of those discussion, we are spending more time in review. Because if someone write a comment, they have to expect the answer. And the problem is getting bigger if I won't agree with your comment, because then we are starting arguing with ourselves. And this argue take time. Also, I can agree with your comment, and then what? I should change my code? Then I'm getting back to the code, I'm modifying it a bit, and I'm sending it to the review once again. It increasing the time that we are spending in the review. I don't know whether you experienced some situation like that you solved the problem within an hour, but you were waiting for merging the code into the master for 1 day, 2 days. It happened to me many times. And this is yet another problem that's showing that we are just creating too big reviews. And it makes our development process longer and longer. And when we are spending too much time in the review, we are not doing the thing that we really like to do. We really like to write the code, create something, solve the problems. It doesn't have to be even writing the code, but solving the problem. This is what our customers are paying for. This is what we really like to do. And this is really demotivating when you are constantly reading, discussing, arguing. This is not the way how our development should look like. So we face all of the problems with my previous team, and after all, during one retrospective, we ask ourselves, so maybe code review doesn't work. Maybe this is not an activity for us. Maybe it's worthless. Maybe we should just merge everything to the master and live with it. Maybe this is a solution. We did an experiment, but we thought about experiment to removing code review completely. But during the conversation, we agreed that no, code review makes sense. It's really worth to have this activity. Why? Because we are sharing the knowledge. And this is not only about, these great features, new features of Java, new features of library that we just upgrade. This is not about this one. We are sharing also information about our domain. We are learning and teaching others. This is the benefit. We are spreading the knowledge. We are making all of us better. because of those code review. Okay, so we agree that this is not the solution for us. So we agree for not putting any single comment into the code review. No comment about better solution, no comment about moving something to different line. We agree that any comment that will appear in code review shows a bug. No bug, no comment. We live with this experiment for 2 weeks, and then we agree that we have to put some more life into our code review, because whenever you are focused only on bugs, you are miss a lot. A lot of knowledge is around, but you are not sharing it, because someone knows something more, but you cannot write a comment. So focusing on bugs is also not a solution. And I want to share with you a few ideas how to improve code review within your project, how to make it faster, and definitely how to spend less time on it and do it with less effort. Okay, comments. As I described, we have an experiment with these no comments. But as I said, you lost a lot. So yet another thing, we introduce question. Before you were putting a comment into the code review, you were asking yourself, are you okay with this solution? Does it really change something if this developer will change the code? It will increase the readability. It will remove some issue, conceptual or functionality. Only then you could, only if answer was yes, you could put the comment. But it was also too much, because then, you remember, each comment you have to expect the answer. So what we could better, because sometimes you just want to share some thoughts. Okay, you solve this in this way, but maybe next time I want to add yet another tool into your toolbox. There is yet another possibility to solve this problem. I don't want to force you to change your current code, because I'm fine with it. But next time you may consider some different solution. So we introduced tags. Like on Twitter, we had few tags. Bug, so without fix or without other agreement over this, no one will merge this code. So that was first tag. Another thing was whatever. Whatever means this is information to you. I just want to share something, share idea, share a link, share my concern, but you don't have to give me an answer for that. This is just a question or suggestion, and we can leave it. There was also one more, delegate. Because sometimes we know that it has to be done, but we don't want to block further development, because sometimes it happens that first commit blocks another commits as well. So to not make this blocker, to not change this commit into the blocker, we just add yet another tag, delegate. So we create an issue, and we were fine with this current solution for now. Another thing, and this is this case with this bug, because of course sometimes me as an author can disagree with the reviewer, and I will tell them that no, you're wrong. It's fine. It's not an issue. It's not a bug. It should work in exactly this way. It should be named in this way. But this type of conversation sometimes changes into battles, because unfortunately we cannot always convince others to our way of thinking. And it's good. From the perspective of the team, it's good to have a different set of mind, because it allows us to create better solutions. So how to solve it? We agree for an arbiter role. So whenever there were two people who were arguing with themselves, and after 5 minutes talk there was no common agreement, we ask yet another development for making a decision. Should we change it or not? And this developer doesn't have to give us any other information, just yes, you should change it, or no, you should leave it. No explanation. We were okay with that. Because as I said, I believe that within a team, we all know each other well. We know that other developers are pretty good with what they are doing. So that was solution for us. It make our discussion shorter. It decrease almost all of the discussion. And in case of this discussion, usually the answer of arbiter was what is written is better than something that have to be written. So we usually, if it was not a huge issue, we usually live with the current state. Okay, yet another thing. Usually, how many files you are see in the code, in the review? 5, 10, 20, 50? Okay. For me, it was various. Sometimes it was 10, sometimes it was 20, sometimes it was 2. But as you can imagine, 2 is not an issue. The problem starts when there are more files. And what are the problems with so huge pull request? It's not usually an atomic change. Usually is the things that we could split further. So let me give you an example. I'm writing a code, I'm solving some issue, or I want to just introduce a new feature, and I spot a place where I can introduce a strategy. So instead of using this direct type, I'm extracting an interface, then I'm using this interface, yeah? Then I'm implementing this interface by the class that was used previously. Then I'm implementing this interface by my new object. And then I'm trying to put all puzzles into the one big picture. There are steps, many steps. And me, as an author, I know the code pretty well. Why? Because I had to understand the code that I'm working with right now. I had to understand the dependencies between the objects. I had to understand what are the relationship over the objects, how they are talking with themselves. I have to know that. But for the reviewer, it's not always so clear. And the problem is that some developers are putting all of those changes under the one commit and sending to the review. It's like, I know, introduce new way of generating a report, for example. Remember that one commit should be one change. Whenever you spot a place where it's worth to rename the method, rename the variable, commit it as a separate commit. Make it as a separate commit. Why? Let's imagine how great it would be as a reviewer to look at the commit where the name of the commit is rename method to more descriptive. There's only one thing that you have to do. You are checking the previous name, you are comparing with current name, and you are thinking, okay, so whether the new one is more descriptive for me or not. If yes, then I'm merging it. With too many things, I have to switch the context because I'm thinking, okay, so this removal is regarding this interface, and this removed object is, to be honest, this one split into 2. Then I'm adding yet another class. Even if when I'm explaining this, it's kind of complex. Remember that if you context versus context, if you are putting too many changes into one commit, it's not like a developer will spend, I don't know, let's assume 5 changes. It won't be like 5 reviews of 5 small changes. 5 times one pull request. No, it will be 5 times per one change, 5 times change plus switching the context. You have to always have in mind what is part of which context. It's really problematic and it's really exhausting. After switching those contexts, we have to keep in mind few things. I once read that we can keep in mind only 7 contexts. So if there will be 9 changes in one commit, then you don't have a memory to remember everything. And this is a problem. And you can simply fix it. Make separate commits. Even if it would be in the one pull request, the reviewer can go one by one. It makes things easier. Okay, this reviewer will spend a lot of time doing this review, but you just reduce his effort by removing this context switch, which is really good. And by this context switch, we are also losing quality. Why? Because we can miss the things. If I will have a commit which will be named interface extraction, everything that won't be this interface extraction, I would treat it as a bug. Clear. I don't have to even think about it. Everything what will be new, everything what will be removed is not an interface extraction. It's a bug. But if I got plenty of changes put into one commit, then I don't know. Maybe I'm just losing something. Maybe there is something that I don't see. Maybe there is one dot that I don't recognize yet. It affects quality. The more time I will have to spend on the review, the bigger the effort will be, the more quality we are losing during this code review. And with those pull requests, as I said, I don't think that we should have code review that contains only one commit. I'm okay with putting, I don't know, a few refactorings. If during the development I think that it would be worth to rename this method, change the API of this method, I'm okay with that. But each change should be treated as one commit. It also helps us to build a story. When you are looking at your revision of the code, when you are looking in Git over the history, then you can simply filter out all of those refactorings, improvements, and so on. You can filter out everything what is not needed. You are looking only on the changes that are crucial to the understand of the whole picture. That's good. This is why we've got this commit message. We are building the story over them. Okay, but if you have a chance, if it won't be a big problem, do as much pull requests as you can. So if you spot the place where you can do a refactoring and you don't have to, I don't know, put too much time into separating it somehow, just send it to the review. It would be great to look at so tiny refactorings, extraction of the interface. You care only about 2 things: whether the name of the interface is proper and whether the name of the class is good. That's all. That's all what we are interested in. You are checking one more thing. You are checking also the dependencies. Does the dependencies change from the class to the interface? And that's all. Renaming of the method. It's also simple. Extraction of the method. That's really good to have so tiny pull requests, because then you are spending on them 5 minutes, 10 minutes top. You can do it during the break. It won't affect your productivity because you won't be tired after doing such a code review. But sometimes huge pull requests happened, and this is the example that I mentioned. we got these steps, like extraction of the interface and so on and so on. Sometimes it really makes sense to put a few commits into the one pull request. Why? Because it gives you whole picture. You know, sometimes extraction of the interface, introducing new object, introducing yet another object, then in the fourth pull request, I'm using those newly created objects in the place where they should be used. Then you are losing the big picture. Someone can look at each separate pull request, can verify the code, it can be good, but without the knowledge how you want to use it, they are lose the most important information, whether you really wrote something that should be created. And another thing, refactorings, renaming the method. If it's a public method, you can affect, I don't know, 60, 70 files. In these cases, most of the job is done nowadays by our IDE. We are not searching through the whole code to change each invocation of the method and so on and so on. No, it's just simple like pressing to few key as a shortcut, rename the method, and it's done. Then in this case, I think it's good for the reviewer to write a comment as an author. Hey man, this is the place where I'm doing a change. All other places are just handled automatically by our IDE. Don't bother this. This is the important change. And with these steps, why question mark there? Because huge pull request, it's always a warning sign. Big picture, it's also really hard to define term. How big is too big? How big is small enough? That's why whenever you can split it without losing a context, a meaning, you should do that. It will be better for your reviewer. And if it will be better for your reviewer, it will be better for you. Because then you will lose less bugs will go into the production. Quality of the code will be better because it won't be so exhausting. Let's move forward. Standard and rules. On the beginning, some of you mentioned about explain the code review as a way to build common ways of solving the issues. Unfortunately, we cannot solve everything automatically, but we can remove plenty with the tools. We've got plenty of tools to do a statistical analysis, to check some dependencies, and so on and so on. We should use tools for that. We don't want to spend time to verifying if we agree that brackets should be in the same line. I don't want to look at the brackets during the review. We've got a full tool for that. To the review, you should send the code that is free of these problems. It should be verified before it will be in the review. So use the tools. I don't want to tell you that whether the bracket in new line or next line is better. It doesn't matter until you are writing the code in the same way in your team. And if you don't agree for such standards, it will affect the readability of the code. It's hard from the aesthetic point of view. It's hard to read when the standard, the way of writing a code is changing all the time. It's harder to look at this code. But we can remove this effort from us by using the tools. They are really powerful tools, and why not? If we can do less, this is really good for us. And what is even better, it's the violation of the rule. In our application, we agreed some time ago that 5 dependencies is the maximum. You cannot create class object that will have more than 5 dependencies. Whether it's 5 it's enough or not, it doesn't matter. Also, it depends on the project. But what this gives me, whenever I see the code that violates this rule, then I'm starting to think about it. Okay, so if someone mark, I don't know, PMD rule as suppress warning, don't treat it as a violation of this particular rule, then I should start to think, okay, so maybe my rule is not so perfect. Maybe the dependency limit that we agree some time ago is not the silver bullet for us. Maybe we should change the rule. Because someone just found a place where they think it would be good to don't follow this rule. And this is important. This is the greatest value that comes with those tools that we can use. We see the violation. It's clear for us. We don't care when you are following the rules, when you are following the standards. It will be done, verified automatically. You don't bother that. You don't spend your time, you don't spend your effort on that. But whenever you see violation over the rule, this is the place when you should stop and think once again. Okay. Next thing, explanation. Sometimes I saw the code in the review when I started to think what the code is about. I were going through the code, I checked all dependencies, okay, it was small, everything looks fine, but I still didn't get what is behind the code. So I went to the author and I asked for explanation. It makes sense. It sounds reasonable. If I don't understand something, I'm going to the author and they explain it to me. But it creates a problem because if I'm, as a developer, cannot understand the code that is already written, and I have to ask the author what will happen in 5 months from now when author will change the project. There will be no person that I can ask about the code. There will be no explanation. I will just live with the code that is total mystery for me. That's why we agree that it would be good to don't ask for explanation. If there is no one except the author who can read the code with clear understanding, that means that code have to be rewritten. Of course, I don't always have the knowledge to understand everything. The bigger project is, the more places that I don't know exist. So what we can do, within each team, you usually have some seniors, some people who spend 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or even more with the project. They should know more or less each aspect of the code. If they don't know, they know the people who have this knowledge. So you should find the answer. Find the answer about the code that you are looking at, but not by asking the author of this code. There have to be someone who can understand it also. Sometimes also we are creating the code that is really specific. I don't know, I can be not familiar with SQL, and there can be really complex SQL procedure there. Then there should be an expert for that. There should be a senior who can tell me what is behind the code. And what happened when I don't ask for explanation the author? First thing, the guy or the developer that I'm asking for the help reminds a knowledge, reminds some fact about the domain, reminds some specific aspect of the language that we are working with. It's good for them. It's also good for me, because by this question, I also learn a lot. And it's good for author, because with this knowledge, I can verify their code. Okay. move on. Asking an expert one more time. Sometimes it happened that me, as an author, I know that there is a really problematic, really hard problem that I just solved, and I've got doubts. It sometimes happened. Once again, I will get back to the SQL. I'm not good with the SQL, and I had to solve some complex issue. So, as an author, I can challenge my solution. I don't need to send this review to whoever can look at it. No, I can go directly to the expert and share my doubts, not explain the solution, but share my doubts, tell them about problem, and then ask for the review. And once again, I learn a lot, and I'm not decreasing the quality of the code. On the other hand, this review won't land in the hand of the developer that cannot verify it. So it's good for quality of the code, for looking for the bugs, and for knowledge sharing. That's a thing that I put into the presentation after conversation with my colleague from the current project. We are talking about code review, and during one of the talk I mentioned that code review creates a fear in developers. Usually in those who are new in the project. Why? Because if you are new in the project, it doesn't matter how long you are working with particular language, with particular libraries. Domain is new for you. When you are as an author, where you are sending something to the review, you can feel the fear of the review. Whenever someone will give you a comment, you can feel the pressure to change it, even if you don't agree. You've got this thinking that, okay, I don't agree with this guy, but he worked with this project around 5 years, so they know better. On the other hand, as a reviewer, I also can feel this fear, because if some developer is putting something to the review, and I don't agree with this solution, but I explain myself, okay, they are working with this project 5 years from now, they should know. They know better. Maybe there is something that I'm missing. This is not the fear that you can allow in your team. Why? First thing, you are not learning. Second thing, you are not teaching. Even new joiner can teach other senior developers, new tricks. You can learn a lot. When you are not asking loudly those questions, when you are not sharing your concern, you are not learning. And on the other hand, the thing that you spot, it can be a problem. No one knows everything. Maybe your senior forget about some tiny aspect of your language, of this domain, that you just refreshed a few days ago. It's worth to ask, because what bad can happen? There are two solutions. Either they will admit, oh man, you're right, I have to change it. It's good that you spot this. On the other hand, they will tell you, no, this is the way how we are doing, and why we are doing it, it's because. And you are learning. That's great. There is only one fear that you should feel when you are doing a code review, when you are sending code to the review, that you are decreasing the quality of the code. If code in the review won't be easy to read, if there will be too much files in the review, then you are putting in danger the quality of the code. This is the fear that you have to feel. That's why we want to make it better. Okay, so those are tips for you, suggestions, my thoughts about improving the code review. And there are a few challenges that are still waiting for us. Big changes. I mentioned a few minutes ago about this, I raised this question, when big is too big, when it's small enough? And the problem is usually visible with the really huge change. Why? Because you are creating a lot of new objects, new functionality, and each aspect, each commit, each pull request can be fine. But putting them together can be wrong. This is a problem. How we try to solve it with our in our project? Whenever we've got a huge functionality to introduce or big change to introduce, we are always sharing upfront our idea. Design have to be done before code is written. It doesn't matter whether you will share it or not. This design will be done. Maybe only in your head, maybe not, but you will have an idea how to solve the problem. Share it, challenge your idea. The more people will know your idea, the more valuable input you will receive. Maybe you forget about something. Maybe it can be solved easier, faster. Doesn't matter. No, it matters. It doesn't matter whether you will, the result will be a lot of new ideas, a lot of improvements over your idea. Maybe your idea will be the best, but by sharing your idea before any code will be written, then other developer will know how you want to solve it. Other developer will know the big picture. Other developer will know why those tiny puzzles are created. They will know the connotation between them, relation between the objects. That's really good, because then they won't look at the single review as a separate thing. No, they will always keep in mind the big picture. And another thing is sharing the whole solution after everything. We can lose something. Someone can remind important aspect after agreement is made. Sharing everything after it's done, just after it's done, it's good, because first thing, all people will have a clear picture of the new functionality, and maybe there will be still some work to be done. Okay, and another thing, we want to create as good code as possible, but sometimes there are those emergency issues. It's hard to track any promise from developer that he will tell you, I will fix it later. It's hard to track it. So in that case, we are always creating an issue in Jira, and we are assigning that to two people. We are assigning this to developer that have to improve the code, and we are setting as a reporter or watcher the person who raised the concern. This allows us to track the progress of the emergency issue, because sometimes we need to solve it really fast. If it's really problematic problem on product, really problematic a mistake on production, we need to solve it as fast as possible, and then we should change it. Another thing, what if someone will raise a concern or issue during the code review? I know the two approaches. We are fixing it later, we are fixing it before it will be merged. What's the problem with fixing it later? If you are basing on the wrong assumptions. If the problem is really big, then your assumptions are incorrect. You want to do something good because you don't want to block other developers from their changes, but the code they are basing on is wrong from the scratch. If it's not, this is the way. This is why we introduce this delegate tag. We are okay with making it better, but it cannot be about domain understanding. It cannot allow for misinterpretation of the functionality. It has to be clear. So when it's okay to fix it later, only if assumption will be still correct. It can be some tiny problem. Then move on and fix it later. Okay, and this is something that I already mentioned, quality and big picture. You always can lose lose the big picture because someone didn't share with you, someone you just don't you just forget about all these detail behind. That's why we introduced two steps of code review. First is within a team or within a group of people that are currently working on this part of functionality, because they know whether the piece of the code fits into the change we are currently working on. They are verifying whether the puzzle fits the big picture. This is the first step. Then we are sending to the different team. Only another team is powerful enough to merge our code. Then they can verify the bugs, quality of the code, and also they can find some things that we missed during our code. Maybe that they remind about some aspect that we missed during sharing our big picture, or we just forget about it. And the last but not the least, remember, code review is only one tool. We cannot depend only on code review. There are so many other things. Static analysis tool. And you can use test-driven development. You can write tests anyway. You can use pair programming. There are so many tools that you may use. Improve each of them, master them, spend as less time as possible, and make it better. Constantly make it better. Okay, so do it or not. I hope I convince you to do code review, improve it constantly, and spend as small time as it possible. If you are spending more time than 15 minutes, it should be treated as a warning sign. You are developers, you are solving the problem. Solve this one. Okay, so that's all for me. If you got some question, just catch me right now. Okay, thank you very much.